Hi, welcome to the Gastroenteritis Blues. My name is Steve Lippman, joined as always by Emily Cannell and Dan Volpone. I ask you, Emily. Now, I'll tell you guys, we did not have an episode last week. We had a busy weekend. Dan was moving. Emily, what were you doing? You had something going on.
I was in Vermont for a wedding.
You were in Vermont for a wedding. Okay, there's that. And
Leads in quite nicely to this.
It sure does. I was getting engaged. I proposed to my girlfriend of 5 years, Gabrielle, who I love very much, have loved for a very long time. And it was great. It was the best thing ever. And so, Emily, my first question is for you. Any advice for a newly engaged couple? You had an engagement of your own, and then during your wedding, Dan and I watched it and live streamed it for what was that app that stopped paying us? What was that? So we stopped doing it.
Oh, I forgot.
Locker Room.
Yeah.
They rebranded and it became something else.
Spotify.
But that's it. So those, which listen, if they want to reboot it, we'll go back to it. But that was we watched your wedding.
I thought we were talking to Paul.
Not the wedding day. It was like 2 days before the wedding. You guys talked to Paul.
You were like dress shopping or getting fitted or your makeup.
I was getting my eyelashes done.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyway, Emily, any advice for a newly engaged couple like myself and like Gabrielle, who is not present at the moment?
I don't really have advice for like the engagement time. It's really not that different than any other time, especially because you live together. My wedding planning advice though is make your guest list before you pick a venue. That's my wedding planning advice. So you know how many people you need, because don't fall in love with the venue and then you either have to cut people or like have too many, figure out who you want there first.
Because it's hard to ballpark the numbers, right? Like how do you know?
And like venues hold different amounts. So like know who you want there first and then find a venue that makes sure you can fit everyone that you want there. So you don't have to cut people that are important to you. That's my advice for that.
Great. Dan, what is your favorite song that plays either at a wedding or a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah?
That's such a hard question because I haven't been to a wedding since I was like 5. And
that's why I opened it up.
Well, I haven't been to a bar bat mitzvah in like 9 or 10 years either.
But more recently than 5. So
all right, like that was like LMFAO was a thing at the time when that was like when I was going to bar mitzvahs. Super Bass was always a great song.
Oh, it still is a great.
It still is a great song. So that'll be my answer. I'll go with that.
I've never been to a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah.
You weren't a Steve?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
No, I remember thinking at the time, should I or should I not?
Right. But you picked the venue and
I was like, you know what? Let's not.
I didn't. Yeah, you didn't. I was on the guest list when you picked the venue. So.
No, I was dating a girl named Bree at the time. I was very stressed, and I was like, I have to slow dance that night with Bree, and there's too much on my mind, and I couldn't do it. But yeah, anything else before we get into the basketball? Last weekend was a lot of fun.
Was Gab very surprised? Like what? I wanted like a little bit more details here.
Okay, here's what I can say. For months and months, I was certain that she had no clue what was going on. And I was right in that because I was talking to her friends and her family and everybody was like, she has no idea. We were trying to get her nails done and she like would not take any hints to get her nails done. It was like, okay, well, the good news is that she has no idea what's going on. And then 24 hours out, she got suspicious and it was like code red, like she's asking a lot of questions here. And it was like, I'm so close to this happening. And like, she started getting suspicious and the whole plan was to do it. And where I ended up doing it was at the place where we had our first date. So I think she started thinking a little bit more about where we were going the following day and the length of time we'd been dating. And she noticed on Instagram that one of her friends from out of town was actually in New York. And so, yeah, she did get a little bit suspicious. And then once we got to the area, it became like clearer and clearer that like something was going on. So I thought for months, I thought like I was going to get her there with like no suspicion, and then she did have some suspicion, which is fine, and it ended up being perfect. But I was thinking that I was going to pull it off with none, but didn't happen.
I think it's very hard for men to pull it off with no suspicion. Girls are just like very like attuned to things, and like if anything is weird, like they pick it up. Like any weird question that's out of character, anything, it's easy to pick up. So
she mentioned to me a few weeks ago, she was like, your phone's been on do not disturb like a lot. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like cutting down on my screen time. I don't like, you want to change the subject maybe? One of her friends I was talking to before this happened a few weeks ago, and she was like, this is like where your acting training will like really come in handy. And I was like, you have not seen my work. Like that is going to work against me. Like my Rotten Tomatoes score is not high. This is like that is going to work against me. But yeah, so we had I did it sort of on a pier by the water, and then afterwards we had like a surprise party with some family and close friends at a restaurant here in New York, and it was really cool. It's a great night, and now it's just like getting used to new reality, and it's very fun. It's all cool.
Congratulations. We're very happy for you. I'm very excited.
Wild times. Another gastro wedding on the way. Good stuff.
Who should interview a few days before your wedding this time?
Who should we? I don't know, but I unlike Emily, I love our guests, and I will make it happen no matter what.
Well, no, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'm gonna be on whatever app Jake Fisher uses now. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. We're gonna be on Please Don't Aggregate This that day.
Yeah.
All right. Bad news for the fans is that Drew is not here. Have to tell you that. So people are going to tune out now. So Drew's not here. Bad news. All right. Kevin Durant this week. A lot happened this week with Kevin Durant. To start sort of chronologically, let me see what the earliest thing was here. Oh, Kevin Durant met with Joe Tsai, the Nets owner. And he reiterated his trade request, and he said that Joe Tsai needs to choose between the general manager, Sean Marks, and Steve Nash and Kevin Durant. He says, fire those guys or keep me, which seems like a wild request. He does not have faith in the Nets. This is per Shams. Does not have faith in the Nets' direction. The meeting was transparent and professional, which other people were saying was very funny. That he shows up to the meeting, he goes, please, like, you need to trade me. Also fire your two leading decision makers. But it was also a very respectful meeting. It's like, how is this like a respectful meeting? What are you talking about? Joe Tsai like immediately tweets, our front office and coaching staff have my support. We will make decisions in the best interest of the Brooklyn Nets.
Which confirms that he said that, correct? Like that can basically confirm
exactly.
Like, he wants him fired.
Correct. It confirms the Shams report that Kevin Durant wants those guys fired, and Joe Tsai is basically saying, I'm not firing those guys, and essentially like, if that's your stipulation, I'll trade you when I get an offer that I like. Like he's just basically telling Durant to fuck off. Like and he's confirming the Shams thing. Like otherwise he could just say like that report is untrue. Like Kevin has faith in our direction and we're working toward a solution or whatever. The New York Post then says that Kyrie Irving is not a fan of Steve Nash and Sean Marks. Kyrie Irving hates these guys. He feels that Nash is terrible and Marks is bad. It's like Marks is like, hey, I'm only bad. Like,
that's pretty good in comparison.
Right. The New York Daily News says that essentially Kevin Durant will hold out of training camp, that he's prepared to do that if he doesn't get traded. Which like momentum is just sort of building towards like he actually legitimately hates it there, and he's not just going to go along to get along. He hates the coach, he hates the GM. And then we have from Ian Begley, who's like a real guy, like he's not one of the fakesters out there. He says that Kevin Durant that the Sixers want Kevin Durant, which is not huge news because it's Morey, and of course they would. But also Kevin Durant wants to come to Philadelphia. That KD is interested in playing with the Sixers. Begley includes that the Sixers would almost certainly have to include Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, draft picks, and whatever. This was in addition to Boston, which sort of confirmed that he's interested in Boston as well. Frank Isola, who seems kind of, I don't know if he's real, but he says it's hard to follow at times. But yes, Kevin Durant would like to play with James Harden, who was in London with Durant around the time Durant met with Nets ownership. Now, there's a video going around of Durant and Harden celebrating after a Travis Scott concert, like they won some sort of championship. I don't know why they're celebrating so much, but it was after a concert. Apparently the concert went really well. Not all Travis Scott concerts go well. I don't know if you're a news buff, but I mean, some of them go very poorly. Then they were in Barcelona together, working out on the court. Their Windhorse whispered that they were also in Saint-Tropez together. They're backpacking across like the international universe together. So there's like, it reminds me of when Sixers were trying to trade Ben, and I remember being like, sure, yeah, of course we would trade Ben for James Harden, but like, that's just not going to happen. Like, there's like, that seems like a silly like fantasy land. Like, I would trade Ben for Malik Beasley. Like, get him out of here. Like, I would love to trade him for anybody. Of course I would trade James Harden. James Harden doesn't really want to come here, and he's not available. And all of a sudden there's like all these dots connecting, and they're holding hands in 6 different continents. Like, what's going on? Why are Harden and KD together all the time in all of these different places? Clearly the acrimony that we saw at the trade deadline when KD wouldn't pick him over anybody in the All-Star game thing, which is my favorite clip ever, that's over. Like, they're best pals again. What's going on here? Like, how real do you think this is? What I end up coming back to, unfortunately, is that the Sixers just won't have the best offer for Kevin Durant, like, given their stuff, like, given that the money to get there is Tobias Harris. And also that the Nets, like, if Kevin Durant's list is 7 teams long, they don't fucking want to send Kevin Durant to Philadelphia after sending James Harden here. Like, of all of these packages, like, they absolutely not. Like, of course they don't want to send him to Boston, who was just in the finals, but like, now Boston maybe doesn't want to trade Jalen, but Chum says that they do. Like, you know, who knows? This opens up the whole Tyrese Maxey conversation, which has been going on for a while now. I've been talking for an hour. I want to open this up to you guys. Emily, what do you think about all of the dot connecting here with the KD and the Harden stuff, and like, where do you end up?
I mostly agree with you. Like, I think that maybe Philly is like Durant's preferred destination, but I don't think that our package is going to get it done. Like, I read that Brooklyn wants like Tatum and Brown from the Celtics, which they're never going to get. But also, if that's what they're looking for, like, we don't have 2 players that are that good to give them. So then I don't think they're really going to be, I just don't think we're going to have the package. Like, as much as it would hurt, yeah, I would trade Maxey for Kevin Durant. Like, he's maybe one of 5 players I would trade Maxey for. Because it just, your championship window is just like wide open as long as him and Embiid would be healthy. But I don't think that, I feel like someone can beat us in a package. And I also agree that like Brooklyn is not interested in making Philadelphia like Brooklyn South after they like got their big 3 and it blew up within like a year, and then just send 2 of those 3 to another team like in their division. That doesn't really seem like wise GMing, but also apparently Sean Marks is bad, so maybe that is what will happen. Who knows?
Yeah, I love Maxey so much. I think he's like gonna be a star. Like, I wouldn't say that he's gonna be like a top 10 guy or 15 guy, but like, believe in him so much. I get the age thing. I get all of that. Durant's had injuries, and he's also been a weirdo in many different ways for a while now, but like he's what, a top 3-4 guy right now, and like just win one title with Embiid. That's it. That's the whole thing. He and Embiid seem to have immense respect for each other, which I think is very cool, and I'm sure part of why he's now open to coming here. But like, he really would have to narrow the field of teams that he's interested in coming to, like down to like Philadelphia or bust, or like a team that has nothing, to give them. Because if it's like Philadelphia or 6 other teams, then like Brooklyn, all things being equal, is just not going to comply with that. But if he narrows it like that, it's not that Brooklyn gives a shit about where he wants to go. It's that him and his agent can pollute the water enough that like Kevin's going to be unhappy and like a malcontent if you trade everything in your franchise to get him there. Like, that's really the part of this. It's really not, when you say that stars control where they go, it's not that their teams with 4 years left on their contract will do whatever the star says. It's that the acquiring team isn't going to give all their shit for like the most powerful entity in basketball, who doesn't want to play in that city or live in that city, if they have guys there and picks there who could be perfectly happy there. So there's a ton of smoke here. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a lot more bullish on the Sixers' chances here than you guys are. I'm not saying it's likely. I think it's like a low chance, but I think it's like a very, very like legitimate chance. And I don't know. I think that when it comes to, the Nets, sending another player to, the Sixers after they just did the same with Harden, I am not sure how big of an issue that is to start with. We haven't heard anything like, where the Rockets didn't want to trade Harden back to Morey. There's no bad blood between Morey and the Nets front office. In fact, like a lot of the reports that were coming out around the time of the Harden trade was that him and Sean Marks really get along. So I think that's something I'm not really worried about. I think that Joe Tsai doesn't really seem to care about the Sixers too much in like a negative way. And I think when you get into a lot of the other points, there's a lot of what ifs that could go the Sixers' way, and they're what ifs, and that's why I think it's still unlikely. But what if the Nets are not really scared off by 2 years of Tobias on a contract that's bad, but not like Russell Westbrook bad, who's another guy we've already heard that they were like thinking about taking on for Kyrie Irving. And Tobias is making less. He's a better player. Yeah, he has that extra year. But when the Nets talk about, they want to be, still somewhat competitive. They didn't say they wanted to compete, if I remember correctly, but the report is they want to be competitive after trading Durant. Well, Tobias Harris would, keep you in the playoff hunt, especially like with what you might get for Irving and with, some of the other guys. I mean, they went on an 11-game losing streak this year. Like, it wouldn't be that bad with him there. Plus, you get Maxey, and Trill has talked about a lot about this on his podcast, but like, he prefers Maxey to Jaylen Brown as an asset. I personally don't agree, but maybe the Nets do. Like, maybe the Nets are like, yeah, we're not afraid of Tobias Harris. We love Tyrese Maxey, right? Like, if you're trading Kevin Durant, you don't trade him for a guy who's like, we like this player. You trade him for a guy you love. And we've seen that before, right? We saw that with, when the Kings traded DeMarcus Cousins, back when DeMarcus Cousins was like the guy to get on the market. And he went to the Pelicans because the Kings just really liked Buddy Hield. Like, it's really easy to see the Nets just like really liking Tyrese Maxey. And
when the Pacers traded Paul George for Victor Oladipo, who like at the time was like doing nothing in Orlando, but they just loved him.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, Maxey is a guy who's easy to fall in love with, and they could definitely say, we're moving on. And when we were on the up and up, we had guys who like played hard and like we're battling even when we were the 7th seed or whatever. And, you know, I think it's easy to be like, yeah, this is the kind of guy that we want to start our like retooling around, or not like a full-on rebuild, but like rebuilding our team around. And then, you know, Trill's also talked about, you know, the fact that the Sixers, yeah, they can't offer as many picks, but basically right now, 2027 is protected to Brooklyn, which means it would be easy to unprotect if they wanted it unprotected. You don't have to get another team involved. And if you trade Maxey for Durant, the Sixers could be really, really bad in like 2027, 2028, 2029. And you can then unprotect 2027, which is basically offering an extra first that could be really good. You can you could send 2029 unprotected. And the Sixers are in a tough spot because they kind of have their picks the year the Nets don't right now, but they could send a pick swap for 2028 at least. And the Sixers picks in 2027 through 2029 could be really, really good. And he drew the analogy to, you know, where the Nets went wrong and how the Celtics got all these great picks, like when they got Tatum, because the Nets got the players in the deal, but they sent the Celtics picks way in the future. The players weren't good anymore by then, and they didn't have the picks to rebuild the team. And the Sixers could definitely get to that point, which, by the way, I would be willing to sacrifice if it meant getting Kevin Durant and having like this 3-year run where you have a really good chance to win a title. But, you know, that's, unless you do everything perfectly, that's the consequence of winning, right? Is that like you have to go all in on a couple of years and you deal with that after. And then, you know, totally agree with you where it's like, you know, I think I don't know why they're reconciled now. Maybe it's because Kevin Durant was like, hey, you were right. It's ridiculous over here in Brooklyn. But they're getting along, and, you know, they're all throughout Europe, and you would have to be crazy to think that James Harden isn't doing any recruiting there, isn't telling him, you know, start telling teams that you want to come to Philly, you know. And I don't think Kevin Durant is going to tell the Celtics, for example, or the Suns, like teams that we've known he's been interested in, and like sacrifice his odds of getting out of Brooklyn at all, that no, I actually only want to go to Philly, right? I don't think that that's something we'll see. But all of those teams have, you know, things that would make you say, and like I said, it's a lot of what ifs. Like, what if they don't offer enough? Like, if the Nets like a lot about the Sixers, you know, potential package, like I said, if they don't mind Harris, if they care about those future picks, if they really like Maxey, maybe you can flip Matisse for another pick, right? Like, if all of these things kind of come into place and they like your offer, then it's like, what if the Celtics don't want to give Smart? And it sounds like Durant wanted to play with Smart. So like now the Celtics are like, we maybe really can't give Smart, and the Nets are saying, well, we're really like, you know, Brown is great, but like unless we get Smart, we don't really want to do it. It sounds like Adebayo and Butler aren't going to be traded. So that is, plus if you get Adebayo, you have to work a lot out with Ben anyway. But like, I'm sure they'd be willing to do that, but it sounds like those guys are off the table. I think that takes the heat out of it. The Nets didn't seem to want Ayton. I actually believe them. I don't think that Ayton's like a steal on this contract by any means. And the Pacers were the only ones to, you know, sign him to that offer sheet. And he can't be traded until I think January anyway. And I'm not sure that like the Suns, who are really good and like younger than the Sixers, like, yeah, Paul is older, but like Booker's young, like Ayton is younger, Bridges and Cam Johnson, like they have younger role players, like they could be good past Durant's years. Like those future picks might not be as enticing as the Sixers picks. And so there's a lot of things. I don't think Kevin Durant wants to go to the Pelicans, for example, who's another team who's been thrown out, right? Like I could definitely see that being a team where it's like he kind of angles himself away from. And so all of these things kind of make you say, like, yeah, that's a lot that has to go your way, admittedly, right? Like maybe it's a pretty slim chance, but it's definitely a chance, right? Like the Sixers have a really good young player to offer. They have future picks that could be really good. And, you know, the salary works perfect if you're giving like Maxey, Tobias and Matisse and maybe Jaden Springer. I don't know if they want him, right? But like, yeah, the package is probably not good enough, but it's not definitely not good enough. And there's a lot of things that could go their way. And I would not be 100% out on the Sixers getting Kevin Durant.
Wild. We found out just maybe a couple hours before recording that Sixers are going to play on Christmas Day. They'll be playing at noon against the Knicks, which is very funny that the Knicks are getting a Christmas Day. They were not good last year. They did sign Jalen Brunson this year. And the Knicks got a Christmas Day game, and then the Lakers got a Christmas Day game. So the league is just sort of leaning into the sort of mainly shitty, huge market teams thing. Thoughts on the Sixers in the noon slate against the Knicks, Dan?
Yeah, I feel like we've had a lot of Sixers Knicks Christmas games. I mean, we played the Celtics one year and we played the Bucks one year. And the Celtics game was a close loss. I think Kyrie hit a big shot at the end, back when he was on Boston, and we killed the Bucks, which was a ton of fun. But I don't mean this to like sound like, arrogant. The season hasn't started or anything yet, but like right now on paper, it kind of looks like an easy win, which would be great. I don't need to see the most competitive game. Sure, it'd be nice to have like a fun, close win against a good team, but like more than anything, I just don't want the Sixers to ruin Christmas this year, and I feel like the Knicks kind of lowers that probability. So I'll take it. I think they're on at the 2:30 slate. I know I don't think they announced times, but if the way they were,
I thought they were noon.
Okay, so if the way they were tweeted out, I could be wrong, but I was just looking, they were like the second team in the list of games. But I like those early games a bit. I will leave for if it's 2:30. What time?
We're the second team tweeted out by Shams.
Right, which is why I thought it could be the 2:30. If it's 2:30, great. I'll watch the game and then go to dinner with my family after the game ends. If it's noon, that's always fun. You don't have to sit through. Usually the noon game stinks, so you don't have to sit through a non-Sixers team playing a bad game at noon if they're early. But whatever. I mean, yeah, it'll be fun. I love the Christmas Day games, and I think it's always a bummer when the Sixers didn't have one last year. So it definitely makes the day more fun.
Emily, thoughts on the Sixers playing the Knicks on Christmas?
Yeah. I don't like it personally because that 2:00 slate is not great for my normal Christmas plans. I will typically be in the car at that point for like a 2-hour drive, which means I would potentially miss the entire game and have to listen to it on the radio, which is like not that fun for me. So I prefer it to be like later, or like I can get away with the noon game. But I do like when they play on Christmas. I kind of think it was a disrespect that they didn't play on Christmas last year. It's such like a big thing, like the NBA on Christmas Day, and to not have like a marquee player like Joel Embiid playing on Christmas Day, I think is just kind of embarrassing for the league. So we're back on Christmas Day where we should be. Just not the best time for me personally, but I'll get over it.
We're gonna take a break. We will be back and wrap up some odds and ends from the week. We're back. All right. This week, there was a fun rumor from Rick Bucher, who I think stinks, and never says anything. Yeah, and never says anything right or good. He was on Colin Cowherd's show, and he said that before Game 4, which is the game that against the Celtics, the Nets game, which was when everything was leading up to with Ben Simmons, where he was dunking in practice and saying, like, did you get that on camera? And they were really hyping it up that Ben was going to play, when of course he didn't play. That in the group chat with Ben and his teammates, they texted and said, Ben, are you going to play? And Ben just left the group chat. Rick told this story as fact. Shams went on, what's his name, Pat McAfee's show, and said this never happened. It's an amazing story, but it didn't happen. So that was fun. Apparently it didn't happen. Shams has a bit of a vested interest in protecting Ben's reputation a bit, given that Shams either is or was a Clutch client as well as Ben. But does not sound like this was true. The group chat, Ben leaving the group chat story. It was, even if we hadn't had the Shams closure on that, it did, as much as I would have loved it as a piece of fact. Given that the only person we heard this from was Rick Bucher, I just couldn't really fully ever enjoy it and got on board with it. But Emily, did you have any thoughts on this saga from start to finish here?
No, I just kind of wish it was true because it's funnier if it's true. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Dan, anything here?
I mean, yeah, it was pretty clear it wasn't true. I actually saw it like before it kind of went like super viral. I think the next day I tweeted out that morning, but you know, what are you gonna do? But yeah, I saw it as like a transcript of it. And I was reading, and I had to go find this interview because it was so funny. And it was like, okay, this is clearly not true because like it's Rick Bucher, and like it's just like even for Ben, come on, that's ridiculous. Like that obviously didn't happen. But like it was
like
so
he does
funny.
have to see these people. like you can't just like
so funny. Like
yeah,
obviously didn't happen, but it's just such a funny like it would honestly be a perfect joke. Like if like Ballsack Sports tweeted that out, it would be like
yeah, right.
We would be like, oh, that's awesome. And because it was Rick Bucher and like people like he has a check mark and people pretend that like that could be true or something. I don't know. It doesn't. I was like, obviously this isn't true, so it didn't really kill it for me. I just kind of read it as a joke. Like, you know, Rick is making a great joke here, even though he doesn't think he is. But yeah, I definitely believe the part where it's like Kevin Durant could have been displeased by all of the, you know, speculation around is Ben going to play, is he not, and then he ends up not playing, but he, you know, says he's feeling fine.
Sure.
Last minute he's not. Like all of that. Like I just don't think that he just like left the team group chat like that. Come on, that didn't happen. But yeah, great story, and probably some truth to the part of it where he says that, you know, Kevin Durant's like a little frustrated with Ben.
Has Bucher said anything about like this big thing that he put out that got him so many retweets, and then Trump's just like, no, it's not fun.
Probably not.
Probably he's just like, all right, well, that's fun.
Fox Sports 1. Does it really matter?
Yeah. Doc Rivers did a interview on Vince Carter's podcast. We should get Vince on the show. Just a note.
Sure, why not?
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
We'll get Drew on that when he's back from his birthday.
Yeah, just a note for Drew as he edits. Doc said, among other things, James Harden keeps calling him all the time. He can't get James to stop calling him. He's roaming in Barcelona with Kevin Durant. They're at brunch, and James is getting up from the table, and he's saying, I have to call Doc again. It's been 20 minutes. I need to check in with Doc Rivers. Okay, sure. Doc thinks Harden's deal is 3 years, almost close. 1 is more accurate, but okay.
Yeah, but that's so on brand for Doc not knowing.
Yes, absolutely.
This is the Doc I love, the one that doesn't know anything that's happening on his team. It's my favorite guy ever.
They asked him about the tampering stuff, and he said Daryl had no idea what Harden was going to do before the great. It's like, I mean, every reporter had the terms of the PJ Tucker deal like a week beforehand, and the Sixers didn't have that much money. so something was going on.
If these things aren't coming up in his every 20-minute calls to Doc Rivers, like what are they talking
well, I guess,
about? Like he's not
I
even.
I guess Doc would say that these calls just started after the contract.
They're like, he's like, look at this golf course in Barcelona. Like, let me, you guys come here. Like maybe training camp next year. He's really just, you know.
So Doc did say that he got hip replacement surgery, and he's not been able to golf this summer. Right. So he started film work way earlier this year, it reminds me of James Harden starting to play basketball way earlier this summer than usual. And he said that Maxey's like the best 21-year-old he's ever seen in his life. Any thoughts on the Doc Rivers interview here, Emily?
No, I hope Doc's recovering from his hip surgery well. It's like if you get it replaced, that's like a very painful surgery. No wonder he like surgery. Stalks around the court like he did. His hip was probably killing him.
Yeah.
So maybe now he'll be like fast, probably running up and down the court. I just can't wait to see it. But no, really not much. Doc's being Doc, you know. He's not much more to say.
Dan?
Yeah, I don't really have any thoughts on it. I think that the funniest takeaway was the fact that Harden's calling him all the time. That's so weird.
There's absolutely no chance.
Do you think that's not true? I think
No.
Harden called him like twice, and Doc is exaggerating.
He's like, he calls me every hour.
What is he saying?
Like, what are they discussing?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I think that I would love that to be true. That Harden. I guess I don't know that I would love that to be true, but I think that Doc is gassing himself up, like, and his importance to his star player. I think there's no way that James Harden is calling Doc Rivers all the time. There's
Do you
no
remember
shot.
Doc's interview tour last summer and how ridiculous it was?
He even dug in on the Ben thing in this interview. He even was like, I didn't say what they said that I said. It's like, oh my God, bro. I need
Well,
to
he was
shut the fuck up.
comparing Ben's camp to like the Trump people or something. Like
Oh my God.
it was just it was
At the
peak
time
Doc.
that he wanted Ben to come back and
Right.
play,
Right.
he was like, it reminds me of the Trump people. It was like, Doc, what are you doing, man? Like,
that was
I don't want Ben to come back, so I don't give a shit. But like, what's your
Right.
goal here? Because, oh my God, yeah, leading up
just
to
says
training camp,
stuff.
he did this media tour where he just fucked up the whole thing. It was awful.
Well, he was on
I
like
loved it.
CNN, wasn't he? Or like MSNBC or like one of the cable news networks.
Yeah, he was doing all these ridiculous, horrible interviews where he put his foot in his mouth every time. It was like, how are you not better at this point?
Like just stop talking.
And to our main story, Tobias Harris got married, which I'm going to do.
You sounded like Bill Simmons saying that. You sounded like a question.
2005 redraftables. He got married, and I, like many fans, was mainly, it looked like a great time. They put out a trailer for the wedding. Tobias looked great, and so did his bride, like Jasmine, I think. Tobias was in a green tux, I think.
Yeah.
Go Birds. I'm
pretty sure it was the company Malcolm Jenkins's like company store. And that's where this sucks from. Yep.
So I was interested. At first, all I saw was George Niang posting, and I was like, okay, is George Niang like the only guy that we could get there? But then there was also Matisse, Niang, Maxey, and there's a fourth.
Embiid was in the bathroom.
He was not there. Embiid was.
Tobias said he was in the bathroom.
He was making a joke.
No,
Embiid was there.
Seriously.
If Embiid was there, trust me, there would be a picture of Embiid there.
He was in the bathroom the entire time.
The whole time.
He had gastroenteritis.
You're not getting Embiid to the Tobias wedding. He was not there. Who was the fourth Sixer that was there? It was definitely, I could have sworn. Maybe that was it. Maybe it was just Tobias. Yeah, maybe it was those four. Danny Green was there. JJ Redick was there. Emily, I know that you want to do a solid 20 minutes on this, so I'll give you the floor.
Also, DeAndre Jordan was there, which I thought was surprising. I guess they play together on the Clippers.
He must have known him.
Were they on the Clippers together? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Kyle O'Quinn was there. Boban was there, of course. Yeah, it looked beautiful. I was really kind of bummed.
Al Neto was there.
Yes, that was the other one. I was a little bit bummed when the Sixers posted the pictures from the wedding because I was having a really fun time playing like deep dives into tagged photos and random NBA players to see who was there myself, and I felt like they gave me a bit of a cheat code. But other than that, the wedding looked pretty. They had fireworks, which I think is very cool. Matisse decided that he should just wear a blazer and a t-shirt to this like very clearly black tie wedding, which I thought was interesting. Just going, independent research, black tie, t-shirt, done, got it. Maxey looks adorable and a bow tie. I just thought he was the cutest thing ever. Thought it was, well, not interesting. I guess like Tobias and JJ seem like friends. I felt like JJ Redick was probably like the biggest name, right, of the guests, I'd have to say.
I guess so.
Is he a bigger name than Maxey?
It's on ESPN now, Dan. So
He is
Bro. He's a college celebrity as well.
making fun of Bob Cousy all day. It's elder
Probably
abuse.
warranted, but
Yeah.
But yeah, it was lovely. I'm very happy for them. I hope they have a lifetime of happiness, and I just love good, like, famous person weddings.
Do we care that Embiid wasn't there from either side? Okay.
no, I don't care.
Okay.
No.
Just checking.
Like, I
And
don't
any
need them to be best friends.
Okay. I'm just asking because Tobias is Mr. Congeniality.
Do we think that
And it
Embiid
seems
is mad that the Tobias contract hurt his MVP case because half the voters were like, oh, well, Embiid is Tobias Harris. Like, Jokic has no one. Meanwhile, Tobias is a disaster the entire year until the playoffs.
That's probably why he either
He might be
wasn't
mad.
there or he went just to defecate the whole time. And
I can't think of one teammate that Embiid would be at their wedding that I would think that he would be there.
he goes to Harden's wine party, so he might go to that
Maybe.
one.
If Jimmy
But I don't
Butler
know.
got married, he'd probably go to his wedding.
He would go to that
Or
one.
JJ, yeah.
Justin Anderson.
Justin Anderson.
He'd go.
Yeah, he'd go to that one. Not Tobias, but Justin Anderson.
Yeah, he'd always go to Justin Anderson. Dan, any other sort of thoughts for
No
Tobias'
other
wedding?
thoughts.
Great. Well, listen, we miss Drew. And
Happy
he was
birthday
here.
to Drew.
Happy birthday to Drew.
Drew is
Happy
21
birthday to
now.
Drew. Drew's
Mhm.
21. He's plastered right now. The editing with this will be a mess.
He's at a concert. I wonder what concert.
He is also on
Oh, I
Twitter.
know. He tweeted something. I think it's Logic, who's a rapper.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, because he tweeted something about that. So
The Dashboard Confessional concert's in Philly tonight, but I didn't really think that was Drew's vibe.
What's that?
Okay.
that's like a 90s band, right?
Like an emo band from the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I was born in the 90s.
Made some
Hands
hits.
down, Vindicated. Come on, guys. Help me out.
Yeah. Made some real hits. Well, listen, we had fun, and great seeing you both.
Congrats to Steve and Gab again.
Woo!
Thank you. Any bachelorette thoughts before we get out of here? Quickly.
Oh, I fell behind. I have to be honest.
Oh, so now we can't spoil. Here we go.
No, go ahead. I'll turn my volume up. Go ahead.
All right, now he can't hear us.
We can just talk about him now for fun.
Okay, listen, I don't like Dan.
Yeah.
He can't hear what I'm saying. He can't hear
This
us.
is
I don't like
kinda-
him, and I've never liked him. And
And now we'll know if he listens to this back or not. If he ever
there's
mentions
no
it,
chance. He'll never listen.
he'll never know this happened.
So I don't like Dan. He's nodding for people who are listening. He's nodding as if we're talking about the Bachelorette. I don't like him. He's wearing a blue sweater that looks stupid, and it's always looked stupid. From the day he bought it, I knew that it looked stupid, and he's pretending to talk. I thought we should have replaced him years ago. And we had a meeting about it, and you said we shouldn't, and we didn't. But it's been a mistake. Okay, you. Bachelorette talk is all done.
Okay, good.
Great.
Great.
All right, good stuff. Follow Third and Girl, Gastro Blues Pod, Steve J. Lippman.
DA Post 15. The YouTube. Go subscribe to us on YouTube. Drew is putting out the good clips on YouTube. And frankly, if you're not following, it's just rude at this point.
And they're not just like clips. Like he adds like funny stuff. It's like not just like a cut clip.
That's right. He has lots of good like graphics and things like that. They're quality videos.
I laugh at them.
Yeah. If you're not subscribed to YouTube, like you're missing out. And you're hurting Drew's feelings, and it's his birthday. So that makes you a bad person to hurt his feelings on his birthday. So subscribe.
And he's DA Peltz 13. And also, if you'd like, send us any questions that you want us to answer here on the pod. Any interaction you want to send us.
Mean comments, we love.
Mean comments, send them right in. Go for it. and we'll be happy to read them on air and change whatever it is that you want us to change about ourselves.
The volume's been top notch lately, I think.
That guy's
The volume.
that guy's fucking out of here. I remember where I was when Emily said that he blocked you.
Yeah, I think he am blocked.
He's gone. He's gone. Anyway, we're out. Love you.
Be safe and be great.
Be safe and be great.